Hello YouTube, welcome to another episode of the house in Fata Morgana. And apparently we're still going to have quite a few more episodes remaining because we've entered yet another story of one of the characters' pasts. This time we're going through Michel's past. Apparently this is back when Michel was Michel. Michel switched genders at some point. Was born female and became male. And on the last episode he did make it up to the top of the tower, but then Morgana told Giselle that Michel was transgender, and then Giselle didn't want to have anything to do with Michel after that. So now we have entered the story of Michel. This is back when he/she was living with his/her family. So yeah, Didier and George are Michel's brothers. So come on, put your back into it. Well, like I said, all I want is to put on a good show. Oh, you'll put on quite a show, unless you learn how to swing that sword properly. Give me a break. Out in the garden, my two brothers traded swings bare-chested. All I could do, though, was observe from afar. And every time I found myself forced to watch, I felt a sharp pain, like a needle piercing my chest. A needle that seemed to be growing ever thicker. My mother and my brothers loved me dearly, but that didn't change the fact that the outside world lay beyond my reach. I was trapped in the estate by my own body. At first, I thought that was the root of my pain, but that answer seemed to contradict something else inside me, something I couldn't explain, something I couldn't ignore, even as a child. So I searched within myself, trying to find an explanation for the constantly swelling sensation of wrongness inside me. Day after day, I gazed into the cavern of my own heart. My, now what are the two of them doing out there? George was asked to do a swordsmanship show at the royal court, so Didier's helping him. Swordsmanship? Oh, I just can't stand those shows. Blades are so dangerous. I can't watch people swinging them at each other. Why don't you come back to your room with me, Michel? I would love to teach you how to sew. But, Mom, I want to watch them practice. Michel, first of all, you need to watch how you speak, young lady. You do not call me Mom, you call me Mother. What? Who the fuck? does that? Like, you can't call me mom, you have to call me mother. The fuck? Okay, whatever. This is what happens when you spend so much time around boys. As your mother, I don't approve of you playing chess or making art. A woman has no need for such skills. They will only make you look insolent. But I want you to grow up to be a respectable woman. That is my job and my dream as your mother. Now come, I would rather you looked at some fine embroidery with me than a couple of sweaty men. Yes, mother. You are my little girl after all. Spending time with my mother was agonizing. Was it because her world was so isolated? No, that wasn't it. Her gentle voice, the sweet scent of her perfume, the way she constantly told me how much she loved me, and her diatribes about how wonderful it was to be a girl. Everything she did put so much pressure on me, but above all, she loved to say, "You are my little girl after all." And there was nothing strange about that at all. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw the daughter of a noble. That was who I was. So the only thing wrong was how I felt. But every time I was faced with the reality of who I was, my heart wavered. I had no interest in learning to embroider. I didn't understand why that was necessary. I knew what purpose it served. Everything she taught me I would need when I was wed off to some noble boy, and it was my responsibility to learn those things. It didn't feel right, though. I couldn't even accept the fact that one day I would be married. It was but an ominous shadow lurking in my future. I would have preferred ravaging the books in Didier's room than having a conversation with my mother. Tales of heroes of old and dauntless soldiers. Military texts written by tacticians in the midst of war. Thinking about them set my heart aflutter and made me think about my brother. He was training to be a knight. I envisioned armor flecked with rust, a long sword glimmering with the blood of savages. Soon I found myself in my fantasies, imagining how the sword would feel in my hands, the sensation of the hilt beneath my fingers, swinging it gallantly, like my brother. How heavy was it? How much muscle would I need to carry it? How much impact would I feel in my hands when I struck something? How restricted would my vision be wearing a helmet? How much did it weigh? How hot was it inside? I had no way of answering any of those questions, though. Ah, kill me now. I have some cloth, if you'd like to wipe yourself off. Oh yeah, thanks. Ugh, I'm so dead. You were at it for a long time. I've never known Dee to half-ass something once he gets started. Which, I guess, is what makes him knight material, but opposed to him becoming a knight? Well, I kinda assumed he'd inherit the estate and handle taking care of everything. So it's like, why's he gotta go and be some priest's whipping boy? Don't tell him I said that, though. He wants to fight for the greater good. I don't know. Despite the name, he wouldn't be doing much fighting himself. Anywho, someone as passionate as him might be able to make changes for the better. Changes? He knows what condition the order is in. That's why he's joining. Figure he wants to whip him into shape, melt him down and reforge the whole thing. Huh. So he might be able to change things. What? What are you muttering about, Michel? Hey, whoa, hold it! The pain I felt in my chest when I smelled the sweat emanating from George's body, when I looked at his slender but distinctly male build. I was convinced it was admiration. Did I want to become a knight too? Maybe the discomfort I felt was because I wanted to be like him? Would it all go away if he were able to change the rules and I could join the order as well? I was positive it would. Didier! Michel, hold on. You can't come barging into my room unannounced. I'm trying to change. We need to talk. I said stop. You're a girl. You can't just walk in on a man as he's changing. I see no reason for you to be so self-conscious. Listen to me, Michel. George tells me you're planning to overhaul the order. He told you that? No, I hardly have such grand aspirations. Don't be coy. I believe you have what it takes to do it, Didier. What's gotten into you? You're unusually fiery today. So I want to ask you a favor. When you have enough influence in the order, I would like you to make me a knight too. You what? I'm tired of the way Mother treats me. Always saying I can't do this or that because I'm a girl. I want to learn how to swing a sword. I don't want to do embroidery. I don't care about jewelry or fancy clothing. Michel, what's gotten into you? I'm so much more interested in the world you live in, Didier. So please. Well, I'll be. I suppose we must have let ourselves spend too much time with you. Not you too. That's exactly what Mother said. First of all, Michel, you don't have the strength to hold a sword. Then I'll train until I do. And if that doesn't work, I still have my mind. You know good and well I could... People are not chess pieces, Michel. But Didier... But above all, you're missing the most important point. I will not for any reason become the kind of man who makes a woman take up a sword. Didier... This may seem normal to you, growing up with two brothers, but I want you to listen to me, Michel. Men and women walk different paths. Men wield swords and fight against dangerous enemies, and they do so to protect the weak, women and children. I am here to protect you and your mother.
You're no different than her. You don't treat me any different than her.
Honestly, what's gotten into you, Michel? Why wouldn't I treat you like a daughter of the Bollinger estate? Your brother and I, we never meant to make you think.
Forget it.
What?
I'm sorry. I knew what I was asking was foolish.
Oh?
But I thought you would understand how I feel. Even just a little bit.
What was I expecting him to understand? Even I didn't understand the things I felt. I wanted to know what had gotten into me far more than he did. What I had done was no better than throw a temper tantrum. Was I that desperate to become a knight? No. I had just thought that the key to the chains in my heart lay down that road, but ultimately there was nothing. Assuming Didier had agreed, and assuming I did become a knight, it wouldn't do anything for the core problem. As I dashed from my brother's room, I snuck a peek at him. His face was filled with an intense perplexity, and how could I blame him? I had tried to push a dozen different ideals onto him at once, filled myself with the vain hope that he would somehow be able to make sense of me when I couldn't even make sense of myself. And now, bubbling with unwarranted anger at being let down, I fled to my own chambers. I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been for him. The patriarchy was in full gear back then. It was the spring of my 14th year. Heavy clouds filled the sky, blocking out the sun and giving the impression of late evening all throughout the day. I, for one, preferred it when the sun wasn't out. Not that sunlight would kill me, but if it was bright enough, the whole world was so white I could hardly see a thing, which meant I could only go outside on days when the weather made most everyone else gloomy. As I was meandering through the courtyard, I spotted someone I had never seen before. A warm breeze blew past, sending up a swirl of flower petals. Oh, I bet she develops a crush on her. The girl's dress hung lightly over her frame, tracing her gentle curves.
Who are you?
I asked bluntly, and the girl twirled around, smiling.
My apologies. You must have such a beautiful courtyard here. I let myself in for a little walk. Long chestnut hair flowed over round, feminine shoulders. It swayed slightly in the wind. The cloud of melancholy dissipated in the light of her smile. You must be Michel. Oh, that's right. Remember back when, um, like, Michel and Giselle were asking each other questions, and she asked like who his first crush was. Yeah, he said it was Amy. So yeah, that's who this is. You're just as pretty as I heard. And you are? My name is Amy. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Finally meet me? What was she talking about? As I stood there, baffled by this strange woman. She stepped toward me, kissing me softly on the cheek. I'm thrilled to make your acquaintance, Michel. Her voice was like someone pouring honey into my ear. Electrifyingly sweet. I'm George's fiancé. And it also stuck another needle into my chest. She was a noble girl by the name of Amy Jobert. Though only 15, she was the very image of refined, polished to a shine. No one had told me my brother was to be married. It came out of nowhere, and it seemed I was the only one who didn't know. That evening, when the family gathered around the table for supper, Amy was there too, and they prepared an extravagant feast for the occasion. My father, Antonin, looked so proud of his 2 boys, Didier soon to receive his assignment, and George soon to be wed. The banquet proceeded smoothly. Not a doubt in the air that we were a happy family, but my mind was elsewhere. I found myself unconsciously chasing Amy with my eyes, watching the way those slender fingers gripped her spoon, her full lips parting to allow a piece of fruit in, her deep red tongue visible for but the briefest of moments. That's interesting. You usually don't notice the tongue of a girl. The way all the muscles in her face seemed to relax in bliss as sweet juices seeped into her mouth. The way she spoke, so soft and gentle, letting each sound hang in the air just briefly before intoning the next. She was distinctly feminine, in a different way than my mother. Apparently, Amy was going to be living at the Bollinger estate for some time. Mother was pleased to have another girl around. Or more specifically, she was relieved to have found someone other than my brothers for me to spend time with. I had assumed I would hate being around another girl, Surely she wouldn't be able to play chess after all. But for some reason, I felt much less suffocated around her than my mother. One night, Amy's family and an array of nobles from both houses' social circles assembled at the estate for a party. A din, the likes of which I had never heard in my life, filled the great hall. Everywhere I looked, there were people, people, people. Servants scrambled every which way. Silverware clanged against dishes in an almost constant hum. Voices from all directions. I felt moderately ill. Hey, Dee, I feel like we're critically short on waiters. This don't look good for us. And who was it who went about inviting everyone he came across again? Who are those people? They're artists like me. I met them at the court. Let's see. We have some painters, composers, sculptors, troubadours, poets, writers, you name it. Composers. Okay, this is taking place in like 1080 something. Like, Western music wasn't even really a thing back then. So I don't know if you would like really find composers back in that era. None of them have any connection to the Jauberts or Bollingers. Sure they do. They're my friends. And you know, this is me and Amy's party. You can play with your friends elsewhere. I hope you realize we have a reputation to uphold. Off in one corner, several men, presumably George's friends, gathered in a circle. They stood out from the other aristocrats, both in appearance and the air they gave off. The clothes they wore, the embroidery hidden beneath their jacket cuffs, their manner of speech, the way they held themselves. They were, simply put, a far cry from the hard-headed Didier's ideal party guests. Even watching them from afar, it was clear my two brothers ran in very different crowds. The only reason headstrong Didier and free-spirited George were able to get along at all was because they were brothers. If they had been strangers, I doubt their paths would cross much, and if they did, those intersections would be quite rocky. Hey, come here, guys! George's shouting voice pulled my preoccupied mind back to the surface. He summoned his friends, and led them to where I stood. What are you doing hiding in the corner, Michel? I didn't even notice you. Allow me to introduce you to a few of my friends. Oh, no, George put his hands on my shoulders, peeling me off the wall and standing me in front of his male friends. Socialization was the last thing on my mind. I searched for Didier, hoping he would come to my rescue, but he was off trading pleasantries, facing away from me. This is my baby sister, Michel. Be nice. George, I don't...
graces, your skin is even more pale than I imagined. It's like something out of a fairy tale. And why have you never brought her with you to the court? She'd be a sure hit. And how old are you now? 12, mayhap? Now, don't treat the lady like a child. I'll have you know she's 14. All the more reason she should be out there making friends. The whole court'd flip if they knew you had such a gorgeous sister, George. Don't be a brute, my man. Our little angel has to be kept inside for personal reasons. Uh-oh. Sounds like I haven't been showing the lady her due respect. I've yet to even properly introduce myself. How rude indeed. Their laughs grated on my nerves, and so did the way George spoke as though I was his property. They looked like they were appraising me, which made me sick to my stomach. I had been paying enough attention to notice the man who had asked if I was 12, and the rest of them too, examining me from head to toe in search of curves. I was indeed underdeveloped for 14. But what did that matter? I didn't want a body shaped like Amy's or my mother's. Now then, milady, a proper greeting. The man got down on one knee before me. For a split second, I didn't comprehend what he was doing. Go on, Michel. He's waiting. He whispered into my ear. That was when it all came back to me. The traditional greeting performed between a man and a woman. Come on, Michel. Don't tell me you forgot what to do. I knew. I knew the process. I had that knowledge. Mother had taught me the rules, shown me the procedure. I was to present my hand to the man, for him to kiss. All I had to do was hold out my hand, but I was frozen. My body fought tooth and nail against the simple act. The thought of that man putting his lips on my skin sent a chill through me. Why? Why was this a traditional greeting? Why did I have to go through this? Michel! But at the sound of George's frantic voice, my arm creaked up from my side. Then, I remembered that, despite being his friends, they were still nobility. As wanton as his social interactions may have been, he still had a reputation to maintain. And I understood that. I also understood that, as their sister, it was my responsibility not to do anything that might tarnish either of my brothers' names. Also, by tradition, the man wasn't supposed to actually kiss the woman's hand. The proper way to do it required he simply mimic the act, rather than make real contact. That much I could handle. The man kneeling before me gave an uncomfortable chuckle at my reluctance, shrugged, and reverently took my hand in his. And then he pressed his lips firmly against my skin. There was a vaguely warm sensation on the back of my hand for the briefest moment. What do you... Reflexively, I smacked the man's hand away. George's eyes went wide in horror, and the man gave another playful shrug. I was merely offering you a greeting, milady. Or is even that a new experience to you? Your innocence is truly precious. I was half a second away from throwing a barrage of insults, but I bit my tongue and stomped off instead. What? Michel? Hey, come back! Michel! I had spent all that time convincing myself I couldn't humiliate my brothers, but now I wouldn't hear a word of it. I had drawn a fair bit of attention, and other people tried to stop me too. But I brushed them all off, marching my way out of the great hall. I feel so dirty. You call that a greeting? No, that was no greeting. That was... I'll be taking that, I say, practically swiping a glass of water off a passing waiter's tray. With it, I wash my hand by the window facing the courtyard. But no matter how much water I poured over it, I couldn't erase the sickening sensation of his mouth on my hand. So I rubbed it with my sleeve until my skin was bright red. I wanted to feel something else, anything else, even pain. Think before you act, George. What were you doing inviting people like that into our home? I was angry, and I had every right to be. He had not performed the proper greeting. Even in jest, he had no business actually putting his lips on my hand. It was not acceptable behavior for an aristocrat. He was a guest. He should have been ashamed. Was I angry that he had been disrespectful? No, that wasn't the reason. It was... That wasn't very nice of you, running off like that. At the sound of his voice, I couldn't turn back. I felt a sickening warmth almost directly against my back. The man from the great hall grabbed me by the wrists, spun me around, and pressed me against the wall. A bitter scent of wine wafted from above. What the hell are you doing? I tried a second time to get away from him, and that was when reality sunk in. I couldn't do it. All the strength I could muster wasn't enough to make the man's hand budge. My arms were locked in place. I didn't think he was especially strong either. He was hardly built like Didier. And still, I couldn't move an inch. You've got a tongue like a boy, milady. But I know some people are fond of that these days. Can't say I mind myself. Let go! Had I always been this feeble? Were my arms truly so worthless I couldn't even escape this brute's grip? Why did I have to get stuck with his body? Now, just so we're clear, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm no monster. I promise you that. Then why are you holding me against a wall? Because I want a chance to try and woo you. I apologize if I made you uncomfortable back there, but the second I laid eyes on you, I knew you were a keeper. Then let go of me. Do that, you'll run away. And it's my personal rule to never let go of anything I like. Your brother says you can't go outside, so if I set you loose now, I might never get a chance to catch you again. I wanted to vomit. Apparently, taking my silence for approval, The man perked up and kept going. If you're not accustomed to being around men, then why not use this as an opportunity to get familiar? Not a half bad idea, if I do say so myself. And I think we'd get along quite well. Besides, I'm a minstrel. Spend some time with me, and I'll write you all the songs you could possibly want. Get away from me. Ah, you really do have the most striking eyes. Makes me want to keep 'em all for myself. With a muse like that, I could write the most incredible songs you've ever heard. I said get back, you creep! Huh? That's odd. That one's never failed me. The man brought his face in just inches from mine and peered into my eyes. I could feel his hot, white and stenched breath against my cheeks. He gave me the chills. I couldn't understand why this was happening to me. Panic and confusion had my heart racing. Go try your luck with someone else. I'm not interested. You will be soon enough, darling. You've simply never known a man's touch. He drew closer. He was already practically on top of me, but still he closed in. Closer and closer. The world faded out. I couldn't see anything. I could feel his rising body heat so near it made me nauseous. My eyes flung open, but there was nothing there. I only felt... I could only feel... I couldn't move. My body wouldn't budge. In my mind, I kicked the man away, pulled my fist back and slammed it into his jaw. Again and again and again, until his face was unrecognizable. Again and again and again and again I beat him. But reality would have none of that. Michel! Hey, what do you think you're doing? 3 seconds? 10 seconds? Longer? I had no idea how much time I had lost. But the next thing I knew, George had the man by the collar. I fell back against the wall, staring absent-mindedly as the two struggled. They traded blows and they traded insults. Before long, they had drawn a crowd. While they went at it, I distractedly drifted away, and I only had one place to go. I didn't even bother to light a candle. I just stared into the darkness. My heartbeat was maddeningly loud in my otherwise silent chambers. What had happened? What had he done to me? Why couldn't I do anything? And the last thing I wanted to do was cry. Tears would only serve to worsen my humiliation, only magnify how wretched I was, only make me more effete. I bit down on my lip hard. I had no need for that trash on my body. I dug my nails into my arms. I had no need for that trash on my body. All of this, every last bit of it. That was why I was the way I was. I didn't know how to put it into words. I didn't know how to express this boundless frustration within me. But after enough wordless groaning, a single word slipped from my lips, and it felt incredibly right. God damn it! I knew good and well a girl should not be using such words. Even Didier and George would have gotten an earful from mother or father if they were caught saying that. Regardless. God damn it! It was the most fitting word I could come up with to represent even the smallest bit of my anger and loathing. I knew all I was doing was shifting the blame. That all it would accomplish was making me look pitiful. But I would take that over crying like a girl any day. Ha! I let loose a sigh that was halfway to being a scream, then started clawing wildly at my hair. I wanted to yank out every last damn strand of it. I didn't want it. I didn't want any of it. Any of this body. But in that case, what did I want from my body? Michel? May I come in, Michel? It was George's voice, slightly muffled through the door. The man who had invited those people into this house. I would be lying if I said I didn't hold that against him. Michel, but at the same time, he had also come to my rescue. Besides, I hated myself the most. I despised myself for being so helpless. I'm sorry, Michel. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's not locked. After a few moments of silence, George stepped into my room. Your hair's a mess, Michel. My God, you're bleeding. That was when I first noticed the stinging sensation in my lower lip. A metallic taste spread through my mouth. I had been biting it much harder than I realized, and there was a lot more blood than I expected. A trail of it was running down my chin, seconds from spilling onto my clothes when George wiped it away. I'm really sorry, Michel. He can be a real ass when he drinks. And he's a bit of a womanizer at that. I never expected he'd try to go after you, though. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. But, you know, there's a chance he may have, genuinely taken a liking to you. That just makes it worse. Sorry. You're right. You want to be with a man you like. I understand. He ran his hands through my hair, as if trying to calm me down, at the same time cleaning up the mess I had made of it. It made me feel like I was some kind of plaything, a joke of a doll. I don't want to be with anyone. I would never, ever be comfortable with a man putting his hands on me like that. However, I'm sure you'll find someone eventually, Michel. Someone that feels right for you. I feel kind of awful for introducing you to him, but but there are plenty of men in the world. You might not be interested now, but that'll change soon. It's part of growing up. You'd be best off forgetting today ever happened." I was dead certain, but apparently that wasn't enough to convince him. The very idea that I might one day meet a man who I wanted to touch me made my skin crawl. Why? Why did I feel like this? Was I just not interested in men? No. If that were the case, I wouldn't admire my brother's bodies. I didn't have an aversion to men. In fact, I enjoyed spending time with my brothers far more than indulging my mother in her woman's world. What I couldn't stand was the particular look men would sometimes give me. But why? Why did I not like that? I had no answer. My thoughts were only going in circles. "Are you okay, Michel?" He peered down at me, his face twisted in concern. But I couldn't answer him. How was I supposed to articulate this? My anger, my frustration, my irritation, my fear. I had no confidence he would understand. "George, how's Michel?" Amy's voice came from the doorway. Inexplicably, I felt like someone had stuck their hand in my chest and was now squeezing my heart. Like I had just been caught in a compromising situation by the last person I wanted to see me. "Ah, yeah, she's doing good. Aren't you?" "Yes, I'm fine." "Glad to hear it." I was clearly lying, not even looking him in the eyes when I said that, but that seemed to have gone over George's head. Amy, on the other hand. "You don't look fine at all," she said, a hint of pain in her voice, and then entered the room. "George, Father was asking for you. He says it's time to bring the gathering to a close. You should get going. I'll stay here with her." "Oh, is he? All right then. Sounds good." Once the sound of George's footsteps had faded into nothing, Amy took a seat beside me and, without warning, wrapped her arms around my shoulders. "It's much better to talk to another girl at times like this." My heart leapt into my throat, but beyond the shock, I also found myself welcoming the warmth. It was pleasant, unlike the man's. "That must have been terrifying, but don't worry, you're safe now." "It wasn't really, no. No need to pretend, sweetie. If a man had me pinned against a wall, I'd be scared too." "I mean it. I wasn't scared. I'm just disappointed in myself." "All right, I believe you. You're a strong girl, Michelle. There aren't many who wouldn't have been scared." "I'll be sure to give George a stern talking to about his choice in friends. Something I learned today is that he's somewhat of a pushover." "You're a lot more tenacious than I thought. As a woman in this world, you have to be. And if you're not, well, you'll figure it out soon enough, Michel. Of course, even as strong as you are, I'm sure it'll still be difficult to forget what happened to you today. George had told me to forget it as soon as possible, and Amy that I wouldn't be able to. Hold on, I gotta go plug my phone in real quick. Okay. Was it the difference in their individual perspectives? Or was it the difference between the way men and women thought? I wasn't sure. As my head rested against her breast, a bit of my frustration slipped out. I couldn't move my arms at all. He didn't even seem all that strong. I couldn't believe that I was really so weak. That's just the way of the world, Michel. Men are physically stronger than women, so you'll almost never overpower one. You're not any weaker than a normal girl. Don't blame yourself. Though it wasn't the consolation I had hoped for, her words still filled me with warmth. I had exploited my own weakness to hear more of that soothing voice. And I alone knew how foolish I was in doing so. Amy frequently visited my chambers. I didn't know if it was at Mother's request or of her own volition, but I prayed it was the latter. She was a very touchy-feely person, and she seemed to have a particular fondness for playing with my hair. Whenever her voice danced its way into my ears, it would wreak havoc inside me. Being enveloped in her scent day after day stoked the fire growing within me. I did my best to remain as straight-faced as possible, because the last thing I wanted was her catching on. I understood that the things I was feeling were untoward, to say the least. Your hair is so utterly enchanting. I've never seen hair so white before. I think having color is much prettier. Oh, well, George says white is the most difficult color to make with paint. There's
There's no greater challenge than capturing the beauty of true white. Living with such a splendid example of the color must have given him a very high standard of quality. Say, Michel, maybe you could tell me about yourself today. I would love to get to know you better. Tell you about myself? Yeah, we could become even better friends if we found some mutual interests. I enjoy playing chess, and I consider myself quite good. Oh my, chess? I've never played. You're such a bright girl, Michelle. Would you like to try? I could teach you. I appreciate the offer, but I think I'll pass. I doubt I would be any good. Oh, okay. What else is there? Say, your favorite kind of flower, fragrance, color of gemstone. Are there any embroidery patterns you're particularly skilled at? I don't have any favorites, no. And I'm not especially good with a needle either. No? Do you have shaky hands then? I wouldn't say that, no. I'm, fairly good with a knife, I think. A knife? Oh, like a kitchen knife? No, a sculpting knife. Sculpting? Is that really so strange? It is a bit unusual, I'd say. But George does it all the time. His room is practically made of wood chips and charcoal and paint. George is an artist and a man. There's nothing unusual about him doing some sculpting. Why is it okay for him but not me? Does being a girl really make that much of a difference? Well, why don't we practice embroidery together, Michelle? I get the feeling you've spent too much time with your brothers. But now you have me. I'm sure it won't be long before you appreciate how much fun cooking and needlework can be. She sounds just like Mother. And she gives the same reason, too. Because I'm a girl. But that's not an explanation. It's a vague generalization. That said, if I agree, I can spend more time with her. Okay. Wonderful. We'll come up with beautiful designs together. And when you've made something you're proud of, you can give it to a boy who catches your eye. Or, if you prefer, you could give it to your father or brother. I would like George to have what I make, though. Oh, I've been wondering, did you and George meet at the royal court? Oh heavens, no. I've never been to the court. One day, my father told me I was getting married. And the next day is when we first met. It happened that quickly? What? Are you worried about me, Michelle? Don't worry. I'm not displeased with the arrangement. In fact, I'm quite happy with it. Aristocratic marriages are almost always sudden. And as a woman, you get used to being a piece in their games. But George, he's different. He's a gentleman, gentleman? Him? You sound surprised. I believe hedonist suits him better. Oh, I quite disagree. I have complete faith he'll do good by me. I couldn't fathom where she found such confidence in him, especially a man she had only just met. How could she trust him at all? She was nothing but a pawn, and she knew it. So maybe she was simply putting on an act. I had trouble believing her smile was anything but genuine, though. One day, you'll meet the right man for you, Michel. And he won't be a drunk like the guy from earlier. He'll be a kind, hard-working, respectable man. I would rather not find anyone. I suppose this is all still too soon for you, huh? Say, how old are you, Michel? 14. Oh, wow. I assumed you were younger. Do I really look that young? No hard feelings. You're just like a tiny doll, so small and slender. And look, not one bit of meat up here at all. Hey! She playfully grabbed me from behind and started prodding at my chest. As her delicate fingers slid across my skin, I found myself gripped by very indecent urges. Every heavy thump of my heart felt sinful. She couldn't know. I couldn't let her. Everything I had been fighting to keep down came hurtling to the surface. You're so cold, you know that? She was touching me like it was nothing, caressing my hair. Was she this intimate with George? Or was it because I was a younger girl that she was so keen on putting her hands all over me? Before I understood what I was feeling, my body acted. It was pure, unfiltered impulse. In my attempt to escape from her grip, I twisted around, only to find my face inches from Amy's. Slowly gravitating closer, I pressed my lips against the corner of her mouth. Amy sat there, flabbergasted. I was equally aghast. I'm sorry. As I frantically put some distance between us, I'm sure my face was red as an apple, though I didn't know it at the time. Well, that was certainly unexpected. I'm sorry. Did I make you uncomfortable touching you so much? Amy was smiling, though it looked forced. No, not at all. Then I must have startled you. I'm sorry. If I had let you go sooner, we could have avoided this accident. What do you mean, accident? A kiss on the lips is... It wasn't an accident. It wasn't, Amy. I seem to have confused you somewhat, Michel. What? I know I can be very touchy-feely with you, and you took that to mean you should do the same. No, you can't do that again, alright? If you want to kiss your friends, you do it on the cheek. Save the lips for the man you love. I should get going then. George starts getting cranky if I don't give him enough attention. Hold on, Amy. So long, Michel. She wouldn't hear me out. Once Amy had fled my chambers, that was when I finally comprehended my own emotions. That she had stolen my heart. But Amy was George's fiancée. No, that wasn't the problem. My body was not meant for her love. I awoke in the middle of the night to pain in my joints. Not enough exercise, I guess. I tried bending and stretching my arms and legs, but it did nothing. So after pondering on it for a bit, I decided to go for a late night walk to distract myself. As I approached the corridor adjacent to the courtyard, I heard a woman's voice. I'm still concerned about staying here. Amy's voice. Doing my best to remain perfectly quiet, I pressed myself up against the wall by the window and listened in on their conversation. I knew it was improper to eavesdrop, but the sound of her voice had me frozen in place. It's Michel. I'm afraid I've confused her. A tiny jolt ran down my spine, my muscles all tensing up at once. The sound of my name rising to her lips, but not in the way I would have liked. She kissed me. Well, almost, but how could I have guessed she thought of me that way? Mother told me she didn't have any female friends and asked me to be one for her, which is why... So she had only been coming to see me because Mother had asked her to. I'd been afraid of that. Afraid that she wasn't there to be with me, that she had no fondness for me, that my yearning for her was one-sided. She kind of scares me, the way she looks at me, always watching every little move I make. I'm sensitive to that sort of thing. I can tell what's going through Michel's mind. I managed to deflect it this time, but I should have never gotten friendly with her. She had seen through me from day one, understood what I was feeling before even I had. It's disgusting. Homosexuality. Homosexuality? Did I hear her right? Something inside me crumbled, and with it,
came an intense sense of wrongness. There it was again. That overpowering discomfort. That fear coursing through my veins. That repulsion. That irritation. That apprehension. What on earth was I? Did I view Amy as a member of the same sex? Were the things I felt homosexual? I heard Amy sigh from beyond the window. Then, the man beside her, who she was confiding all this in, replied, "She's still just a child." That voice, and one with underdeveloped social skills besides, understand that she's going to do and say some inappropriate things. It's not uncommon for a child to mistake admiration for love, and I didn't know this until recently, but when she gets something into her head, she has a tendency to run with it without thinking. Was not the man's I had assumed it was. The other day, she asked me to let her be a knight. I can't imagine how she thought that would end any other way. It's not very often there are women other than Mother at the estate. I imagine she simply got nervous being around you and something got mixed up in her head. Why was Didier out there with her? I hope that's all it was. Amy, hadn't you told me you thought George was a gentleman? So what were you doing getting so friendly with Didier? And Didier, weren't you my ally? Or was that all an act like her? You were going to be a knight. So why were you out here with your brother's fiancée? I'm glad to have you here, so I hope you can figure something out to make it work. I'll do what I can. And I'm kind of reluctant to say this to you, but something has to change. As it is, she kind of grosses me out. She grosses me out. So what? I was some kind of sick, disgusting creature? All I had done was show feelings for her. I couldn't be George or Didier. The needles piercing me expanded, both in size and number. Soon, I was being skewered by a dozen of them, and the heated sighs rising from the courtyard only served to make the pain worse. All I could do was cover my ears and run. Why? What were you doing out there? Didier? How am I gross, Amy? It's not real. It's all a bunch of lies. This entire house is nothing but a fraud. None of it was ever real. The
family gatherings, Amy's smiles, Didier's kindness. George, what about George? Did he agree to the marriage knowing about them? What the hell are they thinking? You want to know who's really disgusting? God damn it! I will not cry. I will not cry! I can't let myself. Girls cry. Tears are for girls, not for me. I bit down hard on my lip, wrapped myself in my sheets, and pressed my hands hard over my ears. Squeezed my eyes shut as tight as I could manage. Tried to get away from the things I had seen. Images of them embracing in the night threatened to float back to the surface, but I shook my head, casting them off, praying I wouldn't have any nightmares. I drifted off to sleep. The next day, I awoke with a terrible fever. I hovered in a sweltering wave of heat, unable to tell dream and reality apart, listening to a seemingly endless stream of cracking noises. The sounds were coming from inside my body. I thought I was falling apart. Mother was horribly worried. I had never been the most healthy child, but I had never fallen this ill either. I couldn't get out of bed. My voice was raspy, like an old woman's. I was genuinely afraid I would wither away and die. Mother called in doctor after doctor to see me. Said it was the flu. That bodily pain was common with a fever. While there was a doctor in the house, Mother was able to remain relatively calm. But once they were gone, the anxiety came back. She stayed with me day and night, even foregoing sleep. Her hands gripped mine. They held me fast. She had her head bowed as if in prayer. Don't worry, it'll be all right, Michel. God is watching over you. He will protect you. You are His child. You are His angel sent to earth. He will not forsake you. The doctors say it's just the flu. Though her words seemed to be directed at me, there was a vacantness in her voice, as if they were really for herself. For so long, she had wanted a daughter. I couldn't understand her fixation, but seeing her there through my cloudy eyes, I wanted to apologize for ever thinking spending time with her was agonizing. How are you feeling? Your mother's here for you. Don't worry. But the only sound that came from my mouth was a faint gasp. I drifted in and out of sleep, Mother's hand wrapped around my own, and I had numerous dreams.
In my dreams, I was a man. In my dreams, I was Didier and I was George. In my dreams, I fell in love with Amy. And in my dreams, I loved her. You're disgusting. But with one word, the dreams twisted into nightmares. My body was torn into fleshy chunks, and I sunk into the darkness. Ah. Several days later, my fever was gone, like it had never been there. However, what the? My voice did not recover. And when I attempted to climb from my bed, the murderous pain in my joints came rushing back. Instead of my feet, I landed on my face. Ah! My voice was unbelievably deep. You hurt. And the pain only got worse. Every time I took a breath, it felt like someone hammering a spike into the back of my neck. It felt like my body was falling apart, like my dreams were becoming reality. Michel! Michel! When Mother scrambled into my chambers, I remembered the time she had spent at my bedside, and a wave of relief came over me. I reached my hand out in a show of vulnerability, but she didn't take it. She couldn't take it. Mother, what? What's wrong with your voice, Michel? I see. You're still not feeling well, are you, Michel? A look of restrained fear on her face, Mother stepped toward me, placing her hand on my forehead. Her palm felt hot against my skin. You don't have a fever, but I hurt all over. My joints. You're still sick, Michel, but don't worry, you'll be fine in no time. Now, back to bed with you. You're a girl. You're a girl, so you shouldn't be sitting on the floor. It's bad for your back. As Mother repeated the phrase, "You're a girl," again and again, that nagging sense that something wasn't quite right, grew more distinct. Was I really sick? Was this actually my voice now? And if it was, what was I turning into? My voice was certainly not a girl's voice. Alright, I think I'm gonna stop here for tonight. Alright, thanks for joining, and I will be back again tomorrow.